Being an animator is hard work. You toil and slave over a film, and then when you finish it, where do you show it? Future Vision Festival, Tokyo, Amsterdam. Call for entries. January 1st till August 1st, 2021. futurevisionfestival.com. En nou zijn de rapen gaar. Welcome to Future Vision Festival. Tonight on the show we have some heavy hitters for you. Dutch animation director Paul Driessen. Psychedelic Japanese artist Keiichi Tanaami. Professor Gon from Tama Art University. Animated short by Anna Engels, Hartocht in Losdorp. And viewer questions. But first, Egg Song from Otaku Boi. Tama, 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 go. Tama, 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 go.
Material. Mindshare. Beautiful. Corporate. Identity. Tama, 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 go. Tama, 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 go. 美しいや便利よ。今ぜひ買ってよ。たま、たま、たま、go。たま、たま、たま、go。美しいや便利よ。今ぜひ買ってよ。Teenagers, foreigners, those with glasses, and the masses. Are you lonely? Watch a movie. Buy a pet. On the net. Tama, 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 go. Ima ぜひ買ってよ。
I often get questions from students wanting to work as animators in Japan. Here are some of those questions. So let's see here. Dara from Leiden University asks, I read about your experience doing an internship at an anime studio in Japan. I realized there would be a lot to organize and I don't really know where to start. I hope you do not mind, but could you give me some tips on how to do an internship in Japan? Well, Dara, it ain't easy, let me tell you. I did my internship at Gonzo Studios in Tokyo. And back then, internships were not really a thing. They're more common now. But I was the first Westerner and the first intern in the studio, and it was, of course, a wonderful experience. But what I would actually advise more is to do an exchange studentship, because your university probably has some connection with a Japanese university, and then you can go over and be an exchange student. And it's a really wonderful experience. I would highly recommend. So good luck to you, and I hope everything works out. And yeah. Okay, and let's see, we have one more question here. Rose from the Utrecht University of Arts asks, I cannot write Japanese, but I can understand it a little bit. Do I need Japanese to do an internship at a Japanese anime studio? The answer is, Hai! Yes, you need Japanese, definitely. I'd say speaking is maybe more important than writing, but you definitely need both. Yes, you must learn Japanese, definitely. You will need it. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comments on YouTube and stuff, and I'll get back to you when I can. And now it's my turn to ask questions. Over now to Tama Art University, where we talk to Professor Gon. Established in 1935, Tama Art University in Tokyo is known as one of the top art schools in Japan. The fundamental philosophy of Tama Art University is freedom and will, art which is the product of a free spirit. Famous animation alumni include Hiroyuki Imaishi, the director of Dead Leaves, Panty and Stocking, and Promare. Also AC Boo, creators of Bobune Mimi Mimi from Pop Team Epic, and Kunio Kato, creator of The Diary of Tortov Roddle and La Maison et Petites Cubes, the first Japanese animated short to win an Academy Award. This is the Department of Graphic Design, where you can study animation. Well, I'm here at Tama Art University, one of the best places in the world to study animation, and I have the absolute honor today of talking to Professor Nomura, aka Mr. Gon. He has nurtured generations of award-winning talent, including Sawako Kabuki, Manabu Himeda,
知ってる僕はこれで十分です知ってる僕は一人で遊んでる
Shinya Hashizume, many others. A lot of really talented animators. 今日どうもありがとうございます。日本語でしょうかね。まあ私も多摩美で大学生だったね。本当に素晴らしかったと思った。外国の大学生は結構増えてると思うでしょ。
多分どこのアメリカもヨーロッパもそうだと思うんですけど、中国の留学生は多いね。
そうですね。
あとはまあ僕らとしては本当はもっとよりグローバルな教育にしていきたいと思うし、まあ留学生さん来てくれると嬉しいです。
そうですよ。よくそうです。
まあフェイはね、本当にオランダから日本に来て、日本に勉強。まあもともとアイルランドで生まれてね、オランダで育って、それでオランダからの留学生ということで、多摩美のこのグラフィックデザイン学科のアニメーションのクラスでアニメーションを作ってね、まあフェイの場合アニメーションじゃなくてアニメーションパフォーマンスという面白い領域を新しく開拓して面白い作品でした。
ありがとうございます。結構変な作品ですね。すごく変な作品。
他にはない作品だから、それはすごく大事なことだと思います。
ありがとうございます。それを聞いたら嬉しいね。 構自由だと思う。野村先生の授業ですよね。
基本的にはもう自由ですね。やっぱり作品っていうのはやっぱり本当に自由であるべきだし、僕が何かこちらの方が絶対いいとかこうしなさいというような言い方は基本的にしませんね。だからみんながやりたいことがどういうことかを僕は理解をして、それをよりね良くするためにはどういうアドバイスかっていう形を心がけてするようにしています。
なるほどね。はい。いや、それは日本でちょっと珍しいと思う。じゃあアニメーターになりたい人にどんなアドバイスがありますか？
今はまあ本当に世界中でね、パソコンがすごくね発達したんで、PC が1台あれば誰でも一人でアニメーションが作れるっていうのは、アニメーションを制作する環境としてはとてもいい時代だと思います。だったので、みんなデジタルを本当に便利なツールとしてね、アニメーションを作るようにはなってるんだけども、その便利がゆえに、便利なためにね、みんなが同じようなアニメーションになりがちなので、本当に自分しか作れない個性的なアニメーションを作ってほしいなといつも思っていますね。
そうですよね。そう、いろいろスタイルがあります。野村先生の授業で。自分
しか描けないイラストレーション、グラフィックを本当に、作るようにいつも言ってはいるんですけどね。日本はジャパニメーションということですごくアニメーションの一つのスタイルがすごく有名なので、その今日本で生まれて育った学生たちはちっちゃい時からね、日本のスタイルのアニメーションを見て育ってるから、だからその中でね、そこに今までの従来あるジャパニメーションにさらに自分がね表現としてどういうことをプラスできるかとか、あるいは新しくこの何かを足すことができるかとか、そういったポイントもすごく大事だと思う。
多摩美で、フューチャービジョンフェスティバルの、日本 X オランダの、プログラムの授業はすごく楽しみにしてます。了解、どうもありがとうございます。本当に。今日もどうもありがとうございます。いえ、
どういたしまして。頑張ってください。
頑張ろうね。
頑張りましょう。コロナに負けないように頑張りましょう。
そうです。バイバイ。Some great animators have come out of the Utrecht University of Arts, including Anna Engels. I've had the absolute pleasure of collaborating with Anna on several animated shorts, including Charles Byrne the Irish Giant, Zen Zen Wakaranai No Idea, and Kimono and Chibi-chan. Next is one of her solo projects, Hartocht in Losdorp, one of my favorites. We have Molly here.
Woo! Hello, greetings from the Netherlands. Yeah, I worked on Paul Driessen's latest short, The Two Shoes, as a colorist. I actually have the production print behind me here from the short. That's a image from the short there, and everybody signed it. It was a very small team that worked on it here.
Wow, that's so cool from his newest short. How fantastic. Molly also did the character designs for the intro of this show. So we have the two marmosets, Momo and Mitzi, and then in the background are her kaiju characters.
For those not in the know, I run a game development studio together with Eric van Wees called Arcane Circus, and we're working on the follow-up to our first commercial project, which was Crap I'm Broke Out of Pocket, and we're working on a pan-media project that is inspired by kaiju media, and that's where those characters are from.
Yeah, wonderful. You have some big plans, right, with these characters that we can't really talk about just
All
yet.
Sorts of wonderful things that I can't talk about right now.
Well, let's go ahead and look at the Paul Driesse interview, eh?
Yes.
Here we go. Here's Paul Driesse. Woo!
There was no school.
Oh.
No. Actually, when I started out in the 60s, there were no schools in Holland. They didn't have animation schools, so I went straight to a studio. And I learned the craft at a studio.
Was it a Cine Cartoons, was it?
It was a kind of a umbrella company called Cine Centrum, and this was Cine Cartoon Center.
Door de oprichting van Cinecentrum is de radiostad Hilversum nu ook een filmstad geworden. De Haarlemse filmmaatschappij...
I think the reason they took me on is because in 1965 in Holland they started commercial television. But the interesting part, of course, in those days we didn't have, for instance, agencies who would tell you what to do. They came to us and said, do you have a good idea? I have a product, but would you have a story or an idea? Or something? And I was a cartoonist. I always drew cartoons all my life. So I came up with a lot of ideas, of course.
An exciting time, though.
But it was an exciting time. Yeah, everything was new, and I learned to animate, looking at Jim. Jim was a very good animator. He was very shy, like most animators. He came from the UPA kind of time.
Right.
Simple animation, but very well done.
Right.
Ah, peace and quiet, it's wonderful.
Oh, yeah?
But anyway, they just worked all the time, getting that day and night. And they drank a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Because commercial animators, they drink. Yeah.
Animators in general seem to party hard.
Not the...
Really?
No, the short film animators, they don't drink.
Yeah,
if they do commercials, they drink because there's the
right.
stress and there's all this
Yeah,
stuff.
and the speed you have to work so.
And that's a bit how I met George Dunning, who was the director of the Yellow Submarine.
The terrible flying glove. The arch villain, the blue meanie.
George Dunning came to Hilversum, right?
And George came to Hilversum because they were friends and because part of the Beatles series were done in Hilversum. And I remember there was $1 million, 9 months, and that was it.
Wow.
And the deadline was final, you know, they had to do it. And George Dunning, who was from the National Film Board, who was a real artist, he didn't want to do the cartoony thing. He said, no, we're going to do something beautiful. And the Americans were very wary of that. They didn't like that. But George looked at what I did and he liked it. He said, whenever you want, come to London and work for me. I was a little scared to go. I mean, I just started animation. I didn't know much about it. But he had invited me. So finally, I just went to London. And I knocked on his door. He said, oh, Paul, we're just starting a feature. And why don't you stay? And it was the Yellow Submarine.
Each sequence in the film starts with a storyboard. This is the storyboard for the Sea of Monsters. And these are all then laid out and passed on to the animators who act out the whole thing in line drawing. And these line drawings are then shot. And that proves all kinds of things like the timing and whether the jokes work and whether the sequence is working as a whole. And this is a perfect kind of dress rehearsal or dry run, after which we can very easily then take approved shots one by one and trace them, the outline of the drawings, and fill in the color and paint the backgrounds and do that whole process which brings off a finished picture.
So I was there from the very beginning, actually, because they didn't have a story yet, they didn't have a designer yet. The Sgt. Pepper album had just come out, so they knew that was the base for the music. And otherwise there was nothing. And so I started doing storyboards, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
I did all kind of bits and pieces. That's how the film was put together. So I did a storyboard for Love, the glove thing. So
do you have any artwork?
Actually, I have one. It has to do with old Fred. And it's yellow and they're hiding. It's typical my style of thinking of my later films, you would say.
Right. There seems to have been a lot of freedom. Yeah.
It was a lot of freedom, except that there were the 9 months. You know.
Yeah, I heard that the George Dunning and the producer Al Brodex, that they didn't get on well.
Oh,
They really hated each other.
Yeah.
Was Al Brodex the real Blue Meanie? Thanks, Paul. I'll be uploading longer edits of Talking Animation to my YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out to hear more about Paul Driessen's wonderful career and interviews with other animators. Now, next is Keiichi Tanaami. Keiichi Tanaami is one of the most eminent Japanese artists living today. Just look at this exquisite work from his recent book, Psychedelic Death Pop. He's an artist who works in many media: painting, sculpture, animation, of course, even fashion. And he made the posters for the Andy Warhol exhibition in Tokyo. And speaking of Andy Warhol, Warhol も会ったことありましたね。
ウォーホルはね、日本でね、日本の NHK っていうその国がやってるテレビ局があって、そこでウォーホルが日本に初めて来たんですよ、展覧会するためにね。アーティストアンディ・ウォーホル氏を招き、でその時にそのテレビのプログラムのアートディレクションを僕にやってくれっていうふうにテレビ局が頼まれて、それでそのウォーホールを素材にしてその中の番組のビジュアルを構成してくれっていうふうに言われたのね。その頃ウォーホールはもう人気絶頂で、もういろんな人がほら取材とかいっぱい来てね、もう疲れてね不機嫌なのよすごく、ね。それでそれはもういくらなんかちょっとこっちって言ってももう下向いてもう黙ってるわけだから、もうダメだなと思って、それでその撮影するのをやめて、その NHK の人とじゃあどうしようかってプロデューサーとねどうしようかと話したら、アニメーションでやるっていうことにして、そのインタビューとかあるんだけど全面僕のアニメーションで作ったわけね。でそれがウォーホルにあって一番最初なのよね。それからその後ニューヨークのそのファクトリーに遊びに行って会ったの。
すごい。ウォーホルはどんな人でしたか？
いや普通の人だったよね。それでねその時ウォーホルがねローリング・ストーンズのねスティッキー・フィンガースっていうアナログのジャケットを作ったんですよ。そうそうジッパーのね。それを作った時でそのウォーホルがそれがねこういうふうにできたばっかりで、それは積んであったのこういう横にね、そのスタジオのね。でこれちょっと僕が見てたら、それじゃそれあげるっていうんでサインしてそれもらってきたの。
すごい。うわーすごい。うわー。Can you see? 素晴らしい。
この頃のね、版画も何もね、ウォーホルってサインしないのよ。
そっか。
版画もサイン入ってないでしょ、ウォーホルって。
はい、
あれ証明書はつくんだけど、サインを入れてるのは随分後の方なのね。でこの頃はね、ウォーホルのサインを入れたものっていうのはね、あんまりないのよね。だからこれはね、
珍しい、
珍しいわけ。相当すごいでしょ。
素晴らしい。ウォーホルも田波さんの絵ももらいましたか？
そうそう。それでその時に、僕がね、東京でやるウォーホルの展覧会のポスターをデザインしてくれってね、2枚ぐらい僕がデザインしてウォーホルのポスター作ったのね。そしたらね、そのジーンズのその後なんだけど、シルクスクリーンのね作品ね2枚くれた。
Well, it's the end of the show, but the beginning of Future Vision Festival. Stay tuned for all the latest. See you again. Bye bye. Jane. Sayonara. Tutsiens. Tuch tuch. Bye bye. Bye. Bye bye now. Bye bye. Bye bye.